right. Now that we got, we have our spirits up a little bit. Let's get on to our reviews because we have two of them. Because I decided to save the movie reviews for when me and Robert can do them together. So let's start off with the one that we weren't able to do last week, which was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Okay.
All right. Just to give you a quick, for the folks, just a quick little recap of that movie. It's about this. It's about this man and woman who are in a relationship together, and they decide that they have this. They break up, and it's a pretty bad breakup. And so they decide that they are going, or the woman decides that she's going to get him all memory of him erased from her mind. And then when he finds out that she had done this, he decides to do the same. But during the process of them erasing the memories of her, he realizes that that he doesn't want to do this, and he wants to actually try to make another go of it. And at the end of the movie, they do end up getting back together, but it's a really if you're not a fan of non-linear storytelling, then you're not gonna like this movie. But yeah, this movie kind of does things non-linearly, and the beginning of the movie is actually the end, and the end of the movie is actually the beginning, and so. All right, now since I gave you the basic synopsis of the movie, let's get into the actual review. Rob.
Yeah, because the goal of it's February, so obviously it's Valentine's Day, among other things, and so we were trying to go for kind of the darker like love stories, and this definitely falls into that category. But I'll be honest, I actually felt like that Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind was, while it was very fucked up, it was at the same time a somewhat hopeful film. In the case of, it's hopeful because, well, I'm drawing a blank on the character names.
Let me look those up.
Yeah. So first, it's a star-studded cast. It has Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet,
a pre-Marvel Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, pre-Marvel Mark Ruffalo.
Kirsten Dunst, Elijah Wood.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, she's a dunce, but just a different kind of dunce.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, the cast.
What was the name of Jim Carrey's character?
Oh, Joel Barish.
Joel Barish, and then Clementine was Kate Winslet's character. So, anyways, those two are the main kind of the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And while we see them as meeting on a train, and they kind of have this, man, you look really familiar, kind of, and they ended up kind of.
Well, if I may, really quickly.
Yeah,
because it's a non-linear storytelling. So again, the end is the beginning, and so he kind of wakes up, but you find out later in the movie that he's actually waking up after he's had the procedure done, and he it kind of starts off with him kind of inner monologuing, talking about Valentine sucks, and 'cause I guess it was close to Valentine's Day when he had this procedure done, and so he's having this inner monologue talking about Valentine's a made up holiday created by greeting card companies, and he's kind of going about his day, but then all of a sudden he gets this urge to go up to Montauk, so I guess they're within like maybe like New York State or like maybe or the tri-state area because I know Montauk is
Yep.
yeah kind of like New York area. And
Yep.
so yeah, he gets this notion in his head to just go up to Montauk, and it's funny because like in the beginning you actually see Clementine, but they don't I guess they don't they don't know each other, they don't recognize each other, and so they go up to I guess they both go up to Montauk because during the course of Jim Carrey's erasure of Clementine, you know. She put, the memory of Clementine puts it in his head. It's like, oh, go to Montauk, go to Montauk. Which then, you then come to learn that that's actually the place where they actually first met.
Right.
For the first time. And so they're going, and then and then they meet on the train, and that's kind of where you think their romance begins. But it's actually where it actually begins again.
Right. So like I said, yeah, like, so Clementine, she has like they have some sort of, you kind of see the destruction of their relationship, and Clementine is more of kind of the, spunky, very spontaneous type of person, doesn't really
Yeah, she's
have
the
any.
spontaneous free spirit of the two, and Joel, he's more kind of reserved and kind of cautious, and it's kind of like like the kind of the opposite, the opposites kind of filling in the gaps of the other. So where she Clementine brings in a sense of spontaneity and and randomness, Joel brings stability, and
Right.
they're both they're both the things that that the other is lacking.
Yeah,
And so
exactly. So, I mean, they're not. To be honest, they're not a great couple together. Like they probably shouldn't be dating, but because they did, I think they did really care a lot about each other.
mm-hmm,
And so there's this procedure where Clementine, she gets her memory erased, and I think it's because like she wanted to move on completely.
mm-hmm,
But even in like her memory erased state, she's still kind of drawn to the memory of Joel, but she doesn't realize it.
right,
And then the same thing is where Joel doesn't really want to live without Clementine because that was where he felt the most alive.
right,
And so like I just better erase her memory completely too. How dare how could she do that and
right.
without us
But
like
I
being
think
able to work it out.
right, I think, but even after when Clementine gets her a memory erased, he's still willing to try and work it out, and he actually goes and confronts her. But by that time, she actually had the procedure done and didn't even recognize him. So I think
Right.
like so his desire to remain together was stronger than I guess supposedly hers.
Right.
And I forgot where I was going
But
with this, but
yeah, but I was saying, but as Jim Carrey or as Joel is going through the procedure of having his memory erased of Clementine, he realizes, while he's going through it, it's like, wait a second, I don't want to lose these memories. They're important to me.
right. And I
They,
think what
they, it was an important part of his life.
right. And I think and I believe the memory that convinced him of that was that intimate moment that he and Clementine shared, and like she shared this story from her past about this doll that she had, and like like cause she always felt like she was ugly, but then she kind of what is it, imparted like a bit of herself within this doll, what she named Clementine, and it's like, oh, Clementine, you can't be ugly, you can't be ugly, and through the manipulation of this doll, she somehow had her was able to, or somehow kind of linked it to her own sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it was in that moment, where she was vulnerable with him. That's when I think Jim Carrey's character Joel fell in love with her. And so it was that memory that made him like, oh, I can't, this is where I fell in love with you. And so, like, and he had that realization that he couldn't live without her, and thus began his attempts, like, during the procedure to erase the memories, for him to, like, hold on to whatever he could of Clementine in memory form.
Right. Right. Um, so yeah, so like I said, as Joel is going, reliving through these memories as they're trying to erase them, he's trying to also fight to preserve them, and he's realizing it's like, so he's trying to hide her and hide the memories of her in like different aspects, different parts of his mind where they wouldn't be found out, and yeah, it's just, I think it's kind of to me, it felt hopeful because they both realized that they wanted to be together, even though they didn't really remember each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, in the end, they kind of do end up, maybe not happily ever after, but they do end up back together. Um, so it's kind of, I think it's kind of, I felt hopeful at the end of the movie. I was expecting to be like, oh man, I really need a drink by the end of the movie, but no, it was actually a really hopeful movie. I thought it just showed. I like the love story.
I mean, I think I'm thinking a little bit differently. Um, because it almost feels like like they're what is it? It almost feels like they're in purgatory because, like, because of, like, kind of like the non-linear kind of storytelling, it makes them feel like they're in a loop, and so it just makes them. To me, it gives me the sense that they're just destined to go through all the motions again, only to end up kind of in the same place. End
See,
up kind of like breaking up with each other, and then kind of going through the process all over again. But
I
I will say that um, what might give it, like, kind of like a break is towards the end when you actually see what happens, and because actually one of the employees of the mind wiping service, she actually had it done on herself, as done to herself, because she was actually in love with the doctor who ran the facility. And so, and then when she found out that she too was a recipient of this procedure, she decided that she didn't want anyone else to kind of have that sense where it's like, I don't know what's real in my life, or kind of like breaking that kind of cycle, and give out all of uh, the tapes of, like, the interview that everyone has to go through, talking about, like, why they want this procedure, and, like, what they don't like about whatever such person that they're trying to erase from their memories.
yeah.
And I think that kind of gives me hope for, like, kind of like a break, but ultimately it does feel kind of like time loop paradox a little bit.
See, and here, this is why, and that very scene that we get, that's why I disagree with you that they're kind of in this random loop, is because you see a breaking. So now they know why. It's kind of like you're in a relationship and you know why. You don't really remember the person, but you remember why you broke up with that person. You know, all like the Joel and Clementine know what they hate about each other from the get go, right? And because of it, but yet they still want to be together, because Clementine, goes to Joel, and Joel's listening to her, the tape that he had of her and why he broke up with her, and she was like, no, just let it play. I deserve it. I deserved it. After what you listening to this tape, you deserve to I deserve that same treatment. And when Clementine, couldn't take it anymore, the old Joel would have just said, just let her go, and just kind of would have retreated into himself. But instead, he chose to say, like, no, he ran after her, and it's like, no, this is the old Joel. This is not who I am anymore. And that is why I think I felt a lot more hope, because they both changed as characters at the end. Going through that process and then kind of hearing themselves talk badly about that person, and kind of having everything that happened, it changed them as characters. It made them better. There wasn't just some like, well, I guess we'll give it another toss of the dice and see what happens. But it was more of like it was a much more calculated relationship, where they kind of knew the flaws and everything going into this relationship than when they had first met.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. But I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, because we only started off with Eternal Sunshine because it's been a while since we both saw it, and we thought that because on the movies that we had decided to watch, one of them was also 500 Days of Summer, and we thought that 500 Days of Summer would be had more of a hopeful ending. But after watching Eternal Sunshine, I guess I begrudgingly kind of think that it is a little bit more hopeful, although I do see more of a fatalistic kind of message in it. But I do have a theory about why 500 Days of Summer is more hopeful, but I'll save that theory for when we actually get to the review.
Yeah. Okay. And it's been a while since I've watched 500 Days of Summer too, so I want to see if maybe I feel differently about that movie. But I would say as of right now, because Eternal Sunshine I watched, that was about 15 years ago now, 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah, because this movie came out in 2004.
Yeah, so I was definitely in a much different state of mind when I watched that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of, at the time, I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't really care for the movie. But now watching it, now that I'm older,
nor did I.
Yeah, now that I'm watching it as I'm older, and watching it in a critical way,
mm-hmm.
I actually liked it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. And I didn't have the the kind of feeling after watching it.
Okay. All right. So let's wrap this review up with our scores. Robert, what do you give this movie?
I'm gonna give it 3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Yeah. Solid movie.
Okay. Yeah. I'd give it. I'd give it a 3. I give it a 3 because again, because I do think it's a solid movie. But I do think that again, there's some element of or there's like this, or I see a little bit more of a fatalistic message in it. But I mean, it's still it's still a good movie. I mean, technically, it's still a good movie. And the story was told aptly. So yeah, that's why I give it a 3.
Yeah, I think it's still relevant for today.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. I would agree with that as well.